Has anyone read the Shadow and Bone and the series, Grishaverse series? This is the extent of my knowledge to the upcoming Netflix show Shadow and Bone, starring Ben Barnes. That's a honestly that's the real reason why I was that's the only reason why I started to care about that work. Honestly, that's bad, but I'm just so excited because Ben Barnes. I'm a huge fan of Ben Barnes. He's great. People probably remember him from the Chronicles of Narnia movies where he played Prince Caspian. And I never really cared for the movies when I was a kid or the books. I read some parts of it, but just not the full books. And I did watch Prince Caspian. I mean, I watched all the three movies when it first came out, but just it never really stuck to me. But now during this plague, and I was sort of revisiting childhood favorites and just classics. Like I rewatched all of the Lord of the Rings all over again because I love the Lord of the Rings. Anyway, so I rewatched the Narnia movies, and it just sort of awakened this crush that I forgot that I have for Prince Caspian or for Ben Barnes that I had since childhood, but I just forgot it was like dormant for some time, and now it's just just started again. Anyway, Ben Barnes is an amazing actor. I because of that resurging interest in him. Anyway, like I checked his filmography and I watched some of the other stuff that he was in. I started with The Punisher. No, 2020 Halloween. Since we couldn't go anywhere, not that I usually go to any parties on Halloween, but I remember watching Dorian Gray at home because anyway, I have never seen that film version of Dorian Gray, so I watched that. You know, it's with Colin Firth, and Ben was great in it. Even though some people said that Ben Barnes as Dorian Gray wasn't the image that book readers pictured how Dorian Gray would be according to what Oscar Wilde wrote. But anyway, I think he did a great job. Anyway, that was the first time that I went back to see some of Ben's old films. And then recently I watched The Punisher, and oh my goodness, was he amazing in it. I'm talking about, you know, he played Billy Russo, the kind of, I would say the main antagonist, but I don't know. I've never thought that I would watch something like The Punisher, a series that's just full of, you know, it's a very, like generally speaking, a very masculine type of series, you know, about like men and their guns and their problems. Just anyway, but it's entertaining and it's a good show. I would recommend, whether or not you care about Ben Barnes. He played Billy Russo, and that character and just the whole setup of The Punisher, I think. Full disclosure, I don't really know anything about the original comics, so I don't know the original source material, so it's just plainly on the Netflix series. It's a great show, and I feel like Billy Russo was this character that just like a mixture of, well, mostly evil fiber in him, but also, I don't know. I know that the whole Ben Barnes like fan world, they cast him as the young Sirius Black if Harry Potter ever made a remake or something. So I think it's a great fit. He also said that, I mean, Ben, in several of his interviews, he also said that he really enjoys playing characters with a mixture of good and bad and everything in between, because that's how real human beings are. And I fully agree. Everybody's multidimensional, and it really depends on what the context is and how we choose to act according to what we believe in and all that. You know, just the whole philosophical thing, I'm really invested, and I really agree with his take. And anyway, his performance as Billy Russo in The Punisher is just so good. And I'm talking about like Heath Ledger as the Joker, that level kind of good. It's so captivating, and it's a really demanding performance. And as someone, well, I'm not a professional actress, but having a little bit of like play experience, and I love just performing arts in general, that's a very demanding role, and it's very easy to accidentally make those scenes and lines feel very cheesy. But with Ben Barnes as Billy Russo, he really gave so much depth in the most like straightforward, violent actions, but he gave the depth of, as a audience, you could really feel where his motivation was coming from. Anyway, his performance in The Punisher, great. And then I watched the Westworld. Yes, I started watching Westworld not knowing what it was about. I knew that it's about sci-fi and kind of AI stuff, but I didn't really know that it's also about humanity and history, which is my jam. I started watching Westworld and oh my god, it is mind-blowing. It was so good. I'm now still on season 1 only, so I don't give me any spoilers, not that anyone would in the comments anyway, but it's just, again, I first started watching Westworld because of Ben Barnes. He plays Logan Delos in Westworld. So I started watching Westworld because of him, but I stayed because of the whole plot and just the whole production. It's just amazing. And it was just so haunting. That's how good it is. And I was talking to my housemate the other day that I didn't realize that I sort of channeled the idea of Westworld. I'm often talking with friends who are also like very invested in humanities about this idea of having another consciousness, but also it is your consciousness, and you sort of went back into history and see how you would be back then, but it's also you. I'm not explaining it very well, but just that kind of concept. I just talked to friends that wouldn't this be amazing, and it's also kind of related to historical interpretation and museum stuff, I guess. And then I watched Westworld and I was just so blown away by how they dealt with these, and the future of AI, and I don't know, everything. It just tickles my nerdy heart so much. And even though I'm not in any STEM field, but I've always loved science, honestly, I'm so captivated by it. And especially my brother is a researcher in, I would say, astrophysics, but also cosmology. Anyway, he is so smart. He's like representing all the brains in the family, while I'm just, I don't know. Anyway, so I feel really close to those topics, even though on the facade of me, you probably wouldn't think like that. But anyway, like when they say, I think it was in episode 1 or 2 in Westworld, that they said, I forgot the exact line, but they said that the hosts, they all passed the Turing test. And that's just, it's just so captivating. And anyway, I'm just so captivated by this concept and AI and Turing test and everything. Oh, if you haven't watched The Imitation Game with Benedict Cumberbatch, highly recommend. It's a great film. It's actually the film that really kind of pulled me into this idea of really trying to relate to how computers' brains work. I don't know where I'm going with this chat. I don't think I'll publish it anyway, but so recently my life is full of just Ben Barnes and I'm just so excited for Shadow and Bone, and I'm excited and scared at the same time, because I just hope that it doesn't suck. I really wanted to get the books and read it, but they're all out of stock on Amazon, and my local bookstore, they don't carry Shadow and Bone. So I don't know if I could get it in time and finish reading it before April. I don't know, the thing is that it's so funny. Sometimes I even feel a little bit embarrassed that as an English major, as someone who studies the humanities and love history, I'm a very slow reader. And I was just talking to my friend the other day that I feel kind of, no, I wouldn't say embarrassed, but just I wish that I have read more. I know it's impossible to have read most of the things that you want to. I feel like for the so-called classics, or whatever you want to call those works, I only read chapters and excerpts of things here and there. Like I would know, like, Shakespeare, like King Lear, Macbeth, and all those, very famous works by Shakespeare, for example. I would know the main theme, and I know the quotes, and, all just the basic one-on-one things that you would expect someone who studied English would know. That part I do cover, but I've never really sat down and read all of it through. Same for all the fantasy materials that I love, like the Lord of the Rings. I finally got a copy. I'm so captivated by the adapted movies alone. You know, the Lord of the Rings movies, amazing. Peter Jackson is, and also Harry Potter movies. I love those movies so much. So basically just the adapted movies alone, you know, the visual adaptation of that source material alone for me is already captivating, that I consider myself a Potterhead, a Lord of the Rings fan. I love those things. But just I've never really sat down and read them through. And I wanted to do that, and know I will. I think it's also because I moved cross country, so most of the books that I have in Taiwan, I couldn't bring with me to Providence. The thing is that not only am I a slow reader, I find it extremely difficult for me to really take things in if it's in a digital form. So if it's on a tablet or just on that laptop reading material, I have a hard time getting it in my system. So, and I know I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it's something that's shared by many people, that we find reading printed copies, paperbacks, way easier. You know, there's just so much research about this as well, and you can take notes, and you know, the physical form of printed materials just hit different. Yeah, anyway, so I don't know, but also I'm moving soon, so I also don't want to accumulate too many things that I couldn't get back home to Taiwan with me. So I don't know. At the ending of each of my videos, I would have like a slide of, you know, subscribe and follow me on Instagram. And I don't know whether you've noticed, on the lower right, I typed a little note saying subscribe and send snacks or books. So I'm gonna be in Providence at least till this late summer or fall. If you happen to have a spare copy of Shadow and Bone, Six of Crows, or anything that you would love to send to me, send it to me. I don't know. God, it's weird. It's weird to be chatty and then upload to a platform that you know no one really cares. It's weird. And I really admire all the content creators, YouTubers, or however you want to call them. I personally prefer the term creators, because I really dislike the term influencer, and I'm never trying to be an influencer. And most of the creators that I like, they never wanted to be an influencer. Most of the people that I follow, like Carolina, Bernadette, Morgan Donner, Jay Swanson, they're just normal people, and most of them are writers, bloggers, researchers. They're not trying to influence anyone or influence anything. So I really dislike the term. Well, I've noticed that the creator scene of Taiwan and the US is quite different. I just feel like I don't really fit in to some of those standards, that I'm not trying to be flamboyant, and my editing is, well, partially because of my very low tech skills. I'm speaking for my work. I'm not trying to criticize anyone. Like, for my work, I don't really aspire it to be very flashy and very entertaining and very just, you know, flashy, TikTok-y kind of. For me, content and substance is very important, and I don't really mind my work. If it doesn't appear very cartoony or entertaining, it's fine. I just want to stay true to myself, that I just want to produce content-heavy things. And I don't know, honestly, after the most recent video, Found Love Since 1790, I know it still has so many things to be desired, but I'm generally speaking, I'm very proud of that video, and it took me so much effort making it that I feel just tired afterwards. And actually throughout this week, I've never really sat down and, you know, do another research, write another paper or script for a future video. Because I just really needed some time off. I don't know, don't you ever still feel guilty even though you know that you needed rest? I think it's just this whole climate of working for yourself and doing academic things, and just like imposter syndrome and guilt are two huge things that I felt very deeply, and I'm not the only one. It's something that at least my friends that I met at grad school, we often talk about. Yeah, so this week I really took things really slow and talked to some really good friends about this feeling of kind of temporary fatigue, because you just produce something that's sucked your soul so much, not in a bad way. It just like it required so much effort. That video, it's only around 15 minutes, but I wrote another very long paper just for that video because I just want to, in my ability, to make things as informative as possible. So I did so much research and writing and translating. You know, having things bilingual takes so much time, especially I'm doing that all by myself. I think people who watch my stuff, they never felt this way, otherwise you would not stay on. Even though I just started this channel about only a month, I think. I knew it's gonna be hard, but just the process, the step-by-step process is still very demanding, and I would say that I'm grateful and happy that my mental state has graduated to the level that I know things happen for a reason, and I know it's not going to be easy. So I prepared for the worst so I could fully experience and enjoy all the little accomplishments, the good feelings, and also take in the not so good feelings and sort of digest it and make it into something that would be nourishing for me for the long term. For the long term. Yeah, and yesterday was so lovely. My friend Kimberly kind of hooked me up with this group called Write for Change. They're this UPenn based group, I would say, and they work with middle schoolers all around the world using writing and other forms of creation to write stories. And they invited me as a guest speaker, as their first ever guest speaker. So I am extremely honored. I actually talk about Found Love in 7090, that video, you know, in light of the upcoming Women's History Month. I had so much fun and everybody was so nice, and that talk yesterday sort of gave me the fuel to finally sit down at my desk and pump my creative juices, or just like start to create again after this kind of week-long break. During this week, as I said, you know, I watched so much TV. I watched most of the things that I could find of Ben Barnes, and then started watching Westworld. I don't know, I think even when I'm just chilling, I feel like, how to explain? So one of my favorite contemporary artists, Nafis White, she's based in Providence. I love her so much. One time she shared something that as a creative work takes many forms. Sometimes rest is a form of work because you needed rest, and sometimes writing down notes or just organizing notes. Sometimes watching TV, listening to music is a part of work because you need to have input in order to have your own output. And I feel so deeply with that because when I was watching The Punisher and seeing Ben Barnes as Billy Russo, it's been such a long time that I found a kind of villain type character that I not that I relate to. I'm not that psychopathic like murderer, but it's just so well written. It's so complex that it just captures all those like very subtle humanities that I would love seeing portrayed either in books, in music, in videos, and just all forms of performing arts basically. So this week I feel like I've been like I haven't been producing things, but I use the time off to take in much input that I might need for future work. Westworld has inspired me so much, and I actually written some ideas in my trusty notebook given to me by my best friend. You might be able to see some Westworld inspired videos. Don't hold your breath. It's not gonna be amazing because I'm not tech savvy enough, but it just, yeah. Anyway, it's just another form for me to also document my life. It's really hard to forego all the judgments that I'm still kind of afraid of, I guess, especially having been through some very personal traumas of related things. Yeah, I feel like I finally graduated to a level that I know that as long as I stay true to myself, it's all gonna work. Work not meaning that, oh, I would just succeed or anything, but it just I would feel grounded and feel good, and people around me and people that I care about, and also vice versa, you know, they would feel that I'm being very genuine, I'm being myself. So then that's the most important thing. Yeah. So what? I think that's it. All right.